We laugh. We cry. We learn. But really, what doesn't kill you makes you better at managing clients and everyone. I'm Morgan Friedman, and this is Client Horror Stories.
Hello, everyone. Very excited to have with me Carlos Davidovich today. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Well, Carlos, I loved our intro call a few weeks ago, and I'm very excited, sitting at the edge of my seat, to hear about your most exciting client breakdown and how you dealt with it. I have my drink in hand. Let's go.
Okay, let's go there, straightforward.
Yeah.
So, the point is, I changed my job many times, and this time I started doing what I'm doing today. That is coaching people in organizations, and I was aiming, of course, executive coaching, top people, and I was not in my country. I was in another country, so different scenario. Top people in an organization, international organization, and I was facing a situation that, to be honest, the big fight and struggle was inside of me. What to do, what place to take, because many times we have wrong assumptions. The situation
Yes.
was running as follows. I was hired by a company to coach one of his top C-suite members.
Okay.
That that was, let's say, intense, but the real definition was a bully. It was a completely bully. Was a
A
person,
bully?
a bully, exactly, a completely bully, and but very effective as bully are. No, I mean, he was very skilled. He knew his job very well, and he was running
Carlos,
an yes.
I'm going to interrupt with a fun interruption for 10 seconds, which is I know you're from Argentina, where I've lived,
Yes.
and just out of curiosity, is there a Spanish word for bully? Because as you said, I'm like, it's such a great word and it's an important, powerful concept, but I've never heard it in Spanish. Out of curiosity, how do you say it in Spanish?
It doesn't exist.
That's funny.
They are kind of similar words, but even though when we talk in Spanish, we say bully.
You say bully in Spanish.
We can say acosador. Or, gosh, it's not easy. There is no one word.
That's funny. So, in conclusion, bully in Spanish is bully. That's what I've learned today.
To understand the spirit of the word, yes, because
It's
there are some Spanish word, but it doesn't transmit the feeling or the impact that does
that's
in English.
that that is a great point, and it's actually really powerful to have a word for a concept, because if there's no word for the thing, it's harder to understand and think about it. So it's great that when the
To
no
give you,
word existed.
there are some words that they are international. I mean, like many. Another one that comes to my mind is feedback. Feedback is an English word. Say
Oh.
it in Spanish. It doesn't have any sense. Retroalimentación.
Getting food again. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Or yeah, or devolución. That doesn't have any sense. Feedback is feedback. Period.
They say feedback is feedback. Okay,
Then,
great.
okay,
Now
let's go
back
back
now
to
back to the story.
the story. He was a bully, a completely bully, very successful in his whole career. So, and he was in this organization for a few years already, and he was managing a team, international team. There was an organization. The sector was pharma, and
Okay.
he was responsible for top products in international level. So the problem is that the team was start not to having good time, and they start complaining. And let's be honest, companies, they they play two games. From one side, they like bullies because they get things done. On the
Yes.
other side, if the situation gets complicated, like a some member wants to sue the company, they will start saying, no, 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 this is not correct. So this double message, we can see it in many places. The point is that this guy was very, very, very good in what he's doing, but I will say one thing I learned coaching bullies is that they have a blind spot. The blind spot is the gap between the intention and the impact. They don't understand the way they impact people in the way they deal with people.
Wow.
So
But by the way, I just want to interrupt. I love the insight. This is great learning. I've noticed the same pattern, but I never thought about it so clearly or directly until you said like this. I love your framing. I'll repeat for the audience and myself that with bullies, there's a gap between the intention and the impact. The way I love that point. The way I would make your same point in Morgan language would be that a lot of bully types that I've known, they think that by being clear, strong, and direct, then people will do what they say and results will happen. And but in my experience all the time, that is sometimes true in the short term. But once you get past the short term, like everyone hates that person and it becomes difficult to form teams and work together and it creates greater problems. So the impact they have is not the impact that they think they're having.
exactly. And the second important concept to understand this dynamic is to be clear, differentiating content from context. And what I want to say is they will always tell you, but what I told them is true, or what I told them is the right way to do things. 99% of the time, they're right. But in the way they say it is the problem. So it's not the content, it's the context. It's how they deliver the information that is so painful and impacts so negatively. And that's what they don't see. They say, no, no, I'm very direct, I'm honest. And I tell you, I have always an anecdote. When I ask them, this kind of personality, let's say, when I ask them, how do you define the way you communicate with people? Always, but I tell you, I did it to many, many of them. The answer is always the same. I'm passionate. I'm a very passionate person. And that's the moment that I stop the guy and I say, you're an aggressive person. This is not passionate. So, and they don't see the differences. So they don't see that impact. Passionate is intention and aggression is the impact. And that's the results in the team, in the way.
That's interesting. I feel like every situation can be viewed from very different sides, even if the words are the same. With the
Exactly.
with the same words, the bully type can be like, "No, I was very clear and honest and correct." But often, but for example, if the person on the other side is a sensitive person, for example, then the sensitive person will hear those same words and their soul could be crushed because they are sensitive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that is not in the radar because
Right.
also they define whoever doesn't receive their communication in the way they want, they will label them as emotional. They are so emotional. They react to whatever I say. What they, again, another blind spot, they don't understand that they are the most emotional people ever.
Interesting.
So when they are convinced they are very rational human being, they're not. If we think, because that's my expertise about how the brain works, they are always in, let's call it, reptilian brain mode. What that means? Remember, reptilian is survival, it's attack, it's fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes.
And these people are the way of communicating is not like but attacking all the time. It's all the time doing, doing, doing. Because in some moment in their life, they learned that they can keep the power and they are safe doing this. People don't react. Of course, they don't fight back because nobody wants to fight most of the time, And in this case, there was a big guy, and also, sorry, you Morgan, you want to say something?
No, by the way, I've so much to say. I find the story fascinating so far because a few things. First, I've had about 100 episodes so far, and none of them have dealt with this bully personality. So there's a lot of learning, and also, I personally have dealt with a whole bunch of bullies. So as you say this, I'm modeling specific people, A, B, C, and A, B, C, and D. And what I like about your insight is, in my experience, your last point is very true. That all the bully types label anyone that disagrees with them as being emotional, while the bully themselves, every a characteristic I've noticed of every bully I've known is that they have emotional highs and emotional lows. They're
Absolutely.
either crazy excited, obsessed with this thing, or they're just like depressed and out of it and disappear, and there's like no moderate ground.
Absolutely. Totally right. And that is, I was the coach of this person, and that was my goal. My goal is to try to make them understand the impact. That
Yes.
was my whole goal of the whole story. But the organization was really, really pressing, not me, not him, pressing me about, the organization is kind of funny, normal. I said the organization is an intellect, is HR, the boss of this guy. Everybody was telling me in one way or the other, please change him. And that's it's not going to happen. So maybe if he can understand something, maybe he can change some behavior. So in one moment, this person was in a really he was okay, but I was, let's say, in a kind of, I will say, crossroad. So in one way, I had to build trust, of course, that this person will trust me. If no, it doesn't
Yes.
work. And that, I'm not saying to be like him, but to try to empathize with him. That's for sure. On the other side, I had to be, I will say, firm and determined enough that he will listen to me and understand what I'm saying. And that can create, or could have created, a situation that the guy would have said, I don't like Carlos. I don't want to work with him anymore. This is over. So
Okay.
I was in the middle of a situation of losing the contract, that was a very good one, by the way, or nice, that I knew there was a mistake, don't get me wrong. And then I was trying to think about the impact in the whole organization. And of course, the organization really wanted to keep this person because it was very effective. But people were leaving the team like crazy. They were just going away, even though people internationally located, they didn't want to even to talk to him by phone because it was so aggressive. So in one moment there was a business, and the business was, of course, compromised, was under threat, and the organization said, "What are you going to do?" It was very hard to replace this person. It's not easy to replace because, again, most of them are very good technically in what they do. So this is the paradox. Say, do I retain the value because of the skill, or I say, hey, go away because this kind of culture we don't like it in this organization. And here again, another component, the culture of the organization. And it's so funny, I tell you, Morgan, because in my life, in my working life, I mean, so many companies talks all the time about the culture. Never they talk about the culture. They talk about what in some moment they define as a culture. And normally is written and is in the wall in a corridor. The real culture of any organization is what really happens every single day in place. In the office or now home office, doesn't matter. That is the culture. And this kind of people, this bully, was there because the culture of the organization was accepting this kind of personality.
By the way, a way I like to define the organization of a culture is what people are rewarded for doing. Because
Exactly.
often they'll have signs in the hallway, as you say, Our culture is being nice, be nice, be nice, be nice. But if it's a culture where the people that get promotions and are raised are the ones who are bullies, then it's just a slogan on the wall. It's not the real culture.
That is exactly like this, Morgan. The culture is what happened every day. When I'm hired for companies just to work on the culture of the organization. I never, I no, I ask them, okay, what is the culture for you? And then I tell them, let me shadow your people few days in the office. I want to see them how they deal with each other, how they talk to each other, and then I will tell you what the culture is, and it really match with what you are saying to me right now. And most of the time it doesn't. It's exactly what you
Right.
say. If you are promoted, rewarded, and you get a bonus because you are a tough guy, come on, this is the culture.
But by the way, I have an instinct that it's not just that it doesn't match with like the what's your word versus what is said. My instinct, again, instinct based on my experience, is that it's the precise opposite. That because it's a culture that rewards bullies, the company, seeing how unhappy people are, feel the need to say we are nice. So often the fact that they that they say something, they're saying it to overcompensate for the fact that the reality is other way. In other words, I if it reminds me of Margaret Thatcher's line, being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to say you are, you aren't. And it's like,
Exactly.
if it's a
Exactly.
if you're a culture of actually nice people in this example, you don't need to put signs saying we're nice. You just, because that energy will radiate in every little decision that and every little thing that you see. But when you're not, you need to put the signs.
Absolutely right. That is real life. And that is important because there are a lot of myth around these kind of things. So then I was in one moment, there was a business going on that was going to absolutely fall down internationally if this guy, there was kind of a catch-22 situation. And I had to decide what game to play myself. The catch-22 was, if we fire this guy, we have a problem. If we don't fire this guy, we have a problem. So if we let this guy go, the organization told me, then the business will collapse. Period. And if we don't let this guy go, the team will collapse, therefore the business will collapse. So what to do? And then is when they called me and I said, oh my God, I this is kind of complicated. And I was just starting my business as a coach, because
Right,
before, in my previous life, I was doing completely different things. So
right,
this was a new job for me. And I was, of course, like always, you want to be nice, you want to be accepted, you want to be loved, and you want to be paid. So in the end, you need to take care of yourself. But these were the situation that I had just only two choices. Or I was playing wrongly nice with the guy and the organization, therefore no solution, or I was really, really going to play as bullies love. The people will confront them openly. That's what they love, because that's the way they behave with people, and that's the only way they understand that somebody's honest. It's funny because when I coach them, they say, but my people never propose nothing to me. They never say no what I say. And I say, well, time out. Who wrote those rules in the team? Who established those rules? And the guy started laughing. Yeah, me. Okay, then stop it. You decided that they only can do what you say, my way or the highway, typically. And then don't start complaining that they don't propose. They don't want to propose anything because they know that you will decide whatever you want. So another paradox. I want them that will have, let's say, discuss with me, that will argue. Then they will never do it. So then,
Wow. By the way, I have to say, I love the mental model you're building of the bully. I've never quite thought about it before, but all the bullies I know say exactly that all the time. They're like, dude, no one ever proposes anything. And it's you're exactly right. And it's always Yeah, they just know that the other person will either yell at them or they'll take it as their own.
Absolutely. Or well, go with their own proposal always, because they always think that they are right. And I tell you, they are not mean. I'm not talking about mean people, okay? I'm not talking about psychopaths. So we need to make we need to make a line here, to draw a line. When I'm called to coach a bully, I do a certain assessment to differentiate human bullies from psychopaths, human psychopaths. And if I identify anything that tells me that this guy is psychopath, I never take that assignment.
What
Never.
Actually, I'm curious to hear what are the leading indicators or clues that the person is likely a psychopath, not a bully.
Oh my God. Okay. In the next 4 hours, I will explain you.
The longest podcast ever.
No. Okay. Of course, is experience, but I will tell you exactly what I do, the technique I developed. And
Please.
again, I do an assessment called Success
Yeah, yeah,
Finder
yeah.
that gives me a lot of data. This is one thing that describe personality types, and then I know exactly this way. But the other thing is first meeting, first meeting with the guy. The guy is waiting to meet somebody that wants to change him or her. Doesn't matter. In this case, was him. Okay. So we'll start in defensive mode. No, we'll start in attacking mode. These people don't understand defensive mode. The way to defend themselves is attacking. That's what they learned since they were very, 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 very young and always worked. So why not to keep using the same technique? It's working. If I attack, I'm protected. That's the way of thinking. So the company sent me somebody to change me. F him, you know? So then the guy will start playing tough. What is my approach? I already developed that through failing many times. I start playing tougher than them. And the first sentence I tell them is, listen, whoever, whatever is the name, John, we're supposed to have a coaching relationship, but I will not coach you unless. No, I start saying, you are very successful. You were like this all your life, and you are in this position, C level. If you want to have this coaching relationship, you need to convince me why are you going to change. If you don't give me a good argument, I'm not taking this coaching. Period. And you should see the faces. The faces, like they don't expect. They think I'm trying to be nice. No, no, no. I'm nice. I'm polite, of course. But I'm saying you need to convince, give me a good argument why you're going to change. Because I tell them, if I will be in your place and I was successful being like this, why I'm going to change? I change company and that's fine. I will find another company will love me. That was the problem. I did it many, many times. So in that moment, I keep silence and I said, you need to tell me why you're going to change. And if it's convincing to me, I mean, it's strong enough, then well, let's work. I give you two examples. What happened in my life, if you want.
Please.
One guy, he was, it's funny, he was the leading the company for 30 years. And in one moment, the company, the headquarters was not in the same country, was in another country, was in United States, and the guy was in Canada. And his boss is sending him a coach because he is a bully. And he said, I'm in the organization for 30 years and they are telling me now that I'm a bully. And of course, the reason was that one of the employees wants to sue the company first time. So the organization didn't want to be sued. So we need to do something. And I said, listen, I understand your situation. You don't understand why I'm here. And I don't understand why they sent me because you were 30 years in the organization. Why you will work with me to make a change? Why? And the guy told me, I'm 3 years away of retirement. 3 years. I don't need the money. It's not a money issue. But I cannot be fired after such a career 3 years before I will retire. That I cannot take it. My heart cannot take it, he told me. I said, wow. And then I said, that's a good reason. So you want to keep your job for 3 more years and not to do stupid things so close to your retirement. That's good. And he said, because I will not know what to say to my family. Okay. So it was no money. The guy was already okay with money. It was about pride, was about emotional thing, very strong emotional thing. And the guy said, I don't want to be fired. I was always excellent. That was one case. The other case was funny because the guy was also very, very bully. And in my head is you're not bully at work only. You're bully at work and at home. So this is the way you are. It's very different. And then I found out it's okay, Morgan. Are we okay so far?
Yeah, this is super interesting.
And then I found out the guy didn't care too much about work, to be honest, because he was very experienced. He knew how to manage, but he had an issue at home. He his daughter stopped contacting him because of his personality. So
Wow.
the purpose of the coaching, this is so interesting, Morgan. The purpose of the coaching was what to do that he will be able to rebuild the relationship with his daughter. But
Wow.
to do that, his work was in himself that will also affect the team. So I did it, I did a round. And even though I tell you it was a fantastic coaching process, I was coaching him how to write a letter to her daughter, trying to explain his personality. That was fantastic.
Wow.
So, and in the end, he made changes because he understood through that
That,
the impact on the team.
wow. Very, very powerful. So,
Yeah. So
on this, I love these two side examples. On the bully of today's story,
the bully of the story was really, really a tough guy. And he said, I'm great on this. And I told him, okay, tell me why you're gonna change. And that was the reason. And he knew that many times, really, he had serious problems in the organization. And in this case, he also didn't want to be fired. And that is enough reason. Yeah. And so in one moment, I told him, listen, I can do whatever I know, but this is in the end, it's up to you. But for me, it was a tough situation because I was starting my career as executive coach after having experience in other works. And and normally, let's say I play nice. No, I don't want to say I'm a nice guy because that sounds good. But I say I play nice and I try to be. I'm very empathetic. Blah blah blah. But in that moment, I understood that's not gonna work. But inside, I have a huge fight because inside said, no, be yourself and let this guy to understand. Let's say what to do. That's not gonna work. So I start thinking about the impact of his behavior in the organization. And what I did, I remember the exercise inside of me to put the head of the CEO. And I said, what do I want from this guy in a good way? I want to keep this guy. What I will tell this guy to be in place to keep the business and not to jeopardize the whole, let's say, business in this moment regarding those products and provoke that so many people are leaving in the organization. So I said, okay, let's try to talk. And then what I did, I tried to get into the core of the thing. I did a personal 360, talking to everyone, talking to the boss, talking to peers, to find out the clue. What was the clue to work with this guy? And I found, many people were okay. Other people didn't want to talk to him ever because it was tough. And the interesting part was the team. The team also had a double sense or feeling, let's say. From one side, they respect this guy as crazy. On the other side, they were scared to death to this guy. So how to deal with this guy? So what I did is I asked the organization, the HR and the boss, I said, let me work at two levels. I will work with him that he's not going to change 180 degree, but I will work with the team on how to deal with him and to understand in a real way that is not personal, that isn't his issue, it's not their issue. So there was a process that took almost a year that I was really approaching all the components of the play of the game, and in that moment I started building bridges. It took time because the team didn't believe anything that this guy's going to change, and he understood that was going to be very hard, but he started understanding the impact. That was the most powerful, I would say, change in his perception. I'm not saying he became the nicest person in the world. That didn't happen. But at least he understood the impact. And then I was in the middle of fire, they were fighting to each other. And I had to make a decision. Do I continue with this, or I just say I cannot do it and I leave? I don't like to give up so easily. So I was trying again and again and again. And then definitely I trained the team and I introduced a lot of humor to train the team.
Interesting.
But because, in another word, this kind of personality are very repetitive. They are always saying the same. Then it's easy not to take them seriously. And it's not that the guy is firing people all the time. It's not true. People were leaving because they didn't want to deal with him. But it was
Right.
not a guy that was fighting people. So there was no risk. And then I was training the team to take it with a completely different perspective. So I was coaching them without the
So,
boss. I was coaching the boss. And at the end, we start establishing this
so
connection.
I'm fascinated by the use of humor here. Is to make sure I understand you correctly, are you saying that you trained everyone else to take what he says less seriously and then interpret it in, let's say, and then basically laugh at it?
Even though, and this was the most risky part, even though to tell them, make joke with him. So joke, no,
Interesting.
not of him, with him. So no, don't use sarcasm. But if you say, man, you told me this so many times, come on, you're so repetitive. So in a nice way, these people are not stupid and they take it and they start laughing together. But they will never do it themselves. Somebody else needs to do it to prove that it's strong enough to do it. Remember, humor is a very powerful tool in many sense, if you know how to do it. I don't believe that sarcasm is humor. This is a personal understanding. For me,
Because
sarcasm,
right, too often sarcasm is people being an asshole pretending that it's humor.
that's why sarcasm, by definition, or my definition, is aggression, always. The humor I'm talking about is not sarcasm. The humor is just to say, hey man, don't say again. This has happened already. Can we try it differently? Hey. So they were trying even though to coach him. And he can take it. These people can take it. When they provoke, the people will be in silence when they are expecting that everybody will be talking and fighting back and saying no. They love this kind of
Right.
conversation.
So, by the way, as an former English major and literature guy, in regards to satire, classically in literary criticism, the ancient Romans divided satire into two types. is what they call Juvenalian and Horatian, after old Roman writers, Juvenal and Horatio, the orator. And Juvenal was a writer who was famous for attacking people, and Horatio was famous for being funny, basically. So they say satire is this combination of being like angry but also funny, and then literary critics will say, oh, this satire is more Juvenalian or more Horatian, for like more on the balance of anger or more about on the balance of funny. But what's interesting is I feel like this same sort of difference applies to sarcasm as well.
Yeah, but sarcasm,
Is
I really
always
don't.
Juvenalian, always attacking.
It's always attacking. It's an aggression. Always an aggression. It's to try to show in a funny way something that you really want to attack, and you don't have the guts enough to say it directly. And then you do a sarcasm, but it's always an attack. And you can make fun in a nice way with people that the only consequence is that they will laugh with you together. So what I mean is that was I was trying to provoke to change the environment and to take fear away from the equation. I was I able to do 100%? The answer is no, but was strong enough that the relationship start changing and that the bully start making fun of himself by himself.
Oh, interesting.
Because listen to this, it's another way to be in the center of attention. That's what they love.
I see. If the jokes are about them with their participation, they're still the center of attention.
Exactly. And that's what they want. They love to be center of attention. They need to be in the middle of a conversation. So they love the power. And power, and I will say power, I use power in a positive way. Power normal, the real definition of power is the capacity of doing something. And these people wants to feel that they can do things. And if people are laughing with me, I also can laugh myself about myself. And that's fine. So I don't feel offended because I'm part of the game. Make sense? So it's very hard that these people will get offended. It's not the point. It's not the point. The point is they keep the power. The point is center of attention. And the point is, and let's be honest, to get results, to get things done. They are very, very, very effective. I mean, that's why they are where they are.
I I like your psychological model of bullies that where this part of it they need to still be the center of attention, but humor, non sarcastic humor, is a healthy way to be the center
Exactly.
of attention. So
Absolutely.
you, I like it. I think you should write a book on dealing with bullies. That would be great.
Remember, they are very competitive personality. Therefore, if somebody will do a joke about them, they need to think in a better joke to win.
Ah,
When
that's
you
that's right.
when you observe the dynamic, in the end, it's the same motivation is to compete, to win, of course, to keep the power, the control, being center of attention, but the final goal is to understand that I need them. It's not
Yes.
only that they need me.
Okay. Wow. I like your story, and so many lessons have come out of your story. And
I love it.
to thank you for your time. This has been great. Any final advice, comments about dealing with managing bullies to wrap up, or did you share the key points you wanted to convey?
No, one more comes to my mind. One thing I normally tell them at the beginning, first session, second session. I ask, and with a very with a putting my face of, I don't understand, and I ask them why you have a team of human beings. Why you don't fire all of them and just buy better computers? If you need only execution, and not thinking. And of course, they laugh. They know it's ridiculous what I'm saying, and they say, "Okay, now let's define why you need human being working with you and not just computers." I don't know if
I,
it's
no,
interesting the impact. They say, "Of course, it's ridiculous what he's saying." I know, but tell me why. So because your team cannot be your arm's extension, they should be your brain's extension. So it's not they're executing what you say, it's they thinking about what you say. And of course,
the
they're smart enough to understand.
the biggest difficulty I've had with bullies in a work context is, in my experience, bullies are usually also micromanagers. So
Yes.
it's not just that things are done my way. Like, we need to achieve this, work here, go this direction, hire these people. But at the tiny level, they'll start wars on the stupidest little things. And this is part of the challenge of that, which is basically teaching the bully that they'll have more impact if they can micromanage less and put their hands back, even if it sometimes means the results will be different than what they want.
And also but I work in a different approach. I work in the approach that is a completely illusion to expect to be managing everything. That doesn't exist. He can't. These people can't. So I told you there's an international organization. This guy cannot see what somebody in Europe is doing or somebody in Asia is doing. That's just absolutely stupid. So the micromanaging is just a way. Is deceiving themselves about something that is not real.
I love it. I love it. But themselves about something that's not real. Going into my meeting notes. I love it. I love it. Carlos, this has been so full of insight and interesting. I'm looking forward to your book about dealing with bullies by Carlos
I have
Davidovich.
one. I wrote a chapter in a book. I was asked for a chapter in a book about bullying a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Now
This.
I learn a lot more now.
Yeah, life and dealing with them and coaching them has taught you a lot. This has been great. Carlos, it's been great getting to know you. Thank you for your time. And all of our viewers who've made it to the end so far, thank you for sticking around. And we hope that you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Until next time.